Once upon a time, there was a little boy called Ma Yun. Ma was born in 1964 during the communist regime of China, a particularly difficult time for the country where they were increasingly isolated from the West. Ma had an older brother and a younger sister, and his family didn't have much money when they were young. Ma was a troublemaker. Despite his scrawny build, he would act all corporate and get into fights with his classmates. "I was never afraid of opponents who were bigger than I," he states on an interview later in his life. This is an extremely important lesson you should note of, which will appear later in the video. Although Ma liked his fighting, he had a peculiar curiosity at a very young age: the love for the English language. As a teenager, Ma started waking up early to visit the city's main hotel, offering visitors tours of the city in exchange for English lessons. He actually got his nickname Jack from a tourist that he showed around the city, because they found the name Ma Yun to be difficult to pronounce. Unfortunately, English was pretty much the only subject Ma was good at in school, and thus when he applied to go to college, he failed the entrance exam not once, but twice. After putting all his efforts in, he finally passed on the third try, allowing him to attend to Hangzhou Teachers Institute to study English in 1984. After graduating in 1988, he started applying to a dozen of jobs, just like any other normal university student would. So far, you would say this man is pretty unlucky, right? Well, it gets worse. From almost all the jobs he has applied to, including one at KFC, he got rejected. From 1988 to 1993, he taught English at Hangzhou Dianzi University. This turned out well for him because he was a natural at it. His students loved him and he also loved the job. The only issue was he made $12 a month. Jack realized that this was not the way he wanted to live his life, so at 1994, at 30 years of age, he decided to open up his first business with the name Hope, translated into English. Hope would help Chinese companies find customers overseas, and Ma would help with the translation of anything that appeared in between to English. This made a lot of sense as China was in the export boom phase at this time. The business did okay for a couple of years, but as you can probably guess, Hope was not the venture that resulted in this man becoming one of the richest in the world. In 1995, everything changed for Jack Ma. Ma traveled to the United States for the first time as an interpreter for a joint venture project for the Hangzhou government. This was at the time he was running his translation business as well. While there, Ma was trying to collect a debt on behalf of a friend from an American businessman. What happened exactly is not clear, but this businessman refused to pay back the money he owed. He locked Ma in his house, trying to force Ma to conspire in a deal with him. At one point, Ma said, he started playing with his handgun. It was obviously meant as a threat. At this point, Ma complied with whatever this businessman asked, and at the time, he was looking for an opportunity to escape. A few days later, this businessman took Ma to Las Vegas, a routine showcase trip for Chinese businessmen visiting America. However, Las Vegas's flashy neon lights and excessive luxuries did not ease Ma's anxiety over being this businessman's captain. Although almost penniless by then, he decided to try his luck at gambling. After all, what could he lose? Luck must have been on Ma's side. He won $600 simply by playing slot machines. With a few $100s in his pocket, Ma bought a plane ticket to Seattle and fled, leaving all his belongings behind at this businessman's. "It was a terrible experience," Ma later said. "Every time I think of LA, I have a nightmare." Ma's fate took a dramatic turn in Seattle. While visiting a friend there, he noticed a gray box with a screen on the desk in his friend's home. Ma had never seen a computer before. It looked to him like some kind of military device used in the People's Liberation Army. "What the heck is this?" Ma was a little apprehensive. "It's not a bomb, Jack," his friend said. "It's a computer. Just touch it and play with it any way you want." It was the first time Ma discovered the internet. He typed in beer and it returned a list of results. Then he typed in beer and China, but it yielded nothing. In 1995, Netscape had just started and Yahoo was barely launched. Very few people in the United States understood the internet, and fewer could foresee its future impact, and even fewer people in China knew what it was all about. But Ma sensed a big opportunity. He believed this internet thing was going to change the world. After he returned home, he borrowed $2,000 from friends and family and set up what is believed to be the first commercial website in China called China Pages, a directory service for businesses in China. So what this business would do is it would create a website for businesses in China and put it on the internet. Of course, during these times, the websites were not that complicated, so these websites would just contain the address, phone number, and the type of business that this business was doing. While simultaneously running these two companies, Hope and China Pages, Jack unfortunately failed with them both. After some point, Hope was not able to sustain its costs, and thus Jack had to stop operations at Hope. His second startup, China Pages, was not doing so well either. He left the company 2 years later, however, partly because of strong competition from the communications company Hangzhou Telecom, which had founded a rival company, Chinese Page. From 1998 to 1999, Ma was now head of an internet company in Beijing that was backed by the Ministry of Foreign Trade and Economic Cooperation. He felt, however, that if he remained with the government, he would miss out on the economic opportunities that the internet was bringing. Ma persuaded his team at the ministry to go back to Hangzhou with him and find the Alibaba Group, which launched a website that facilitated deals between small businesses. Now, this was at a time where Chinese businesses were booming, and there was lots of American dollars flowing into China. The reason for this was due to a peculiar IPO of China.com in 1999, which on its first day of trading on the Nasdaq was worth $1.6 billion, despite only making $4 million in annual revenue and losing $9 million. Venture capital firms in the US were looking all over China for the best startups to invest into, seeing these insane numbers and ROIs. One of these venture capital firms were Goldman Sachs, which would invest $5 million for 500,000 shares, half the company of Alibaba, while retaining veto rights over key decisions. Jack had succeeded in securing a big name investor, in which would prove to be a critical step in Alibaba's story, but he would also come to regret selling such a large stake in the company, 50%, which he would never be able to recoup. In reality, though, Jack had little choice. He was an unproven entrepreneur based in a provincial city in China who was negotiating with a huge global financial institution. But having already given out a lot of equity to his co-founders and now 50% to investors, he ended up with a much lower share of his company than many of his peers. By October 1999, Ma also raised $20 million from SoftBank, a Japanese telecom company that also invests in technological companies. After this point, with hard work, blood, sweat, and tears, Alibaba became profitable 3 years later. Ma wanted to improve the global e-commerce system, and from 2003, he founded Taobao, Alipay, Alimama, and Lynx. After the rapid rise of Taobao, eBay offered to purchase the company. However, Ma rejected their offer, instead gathering support from Yahoo co-founder Jerry Yang with a $1 billion investment, which after the IPO ended up worth $10 billion. Now, as a potential startup founder and entrepreneur, these are the main takeaways you should take from the story. Traveling will give you a great perspective of life and can potentially make you rich. If Jack Ma didn't go to the US, he would have not been able to create Alibaba in the first place. Making mistakes is the best way to learn. Jack Ma wouldn't have been in this place if he didn't start his first two companies. Age is just a number. Jack started his first business at the age of 30, and Alibaba was started when he was 35. Not giving up. Jack Ma could have easily given up his dreams of entrepreneurship, but he didn't. Instead, he went into action as soon as he saw the opportunity of a B2B business in China. Right place, right time. Jack Ma started up an internet company at a time where internet companies were relatively new and there was a lot of investment by venture capital firms in the US to China. If these conditions were not right, Jack Ma's business could have easily failed. You don't need to be a tech guy or someone who is great at maths in order to start a tech company. You just need to be someone that can find capital, convince people, present your ideas clearly, and motivate your employees. These are much more important than being good at programming or maths or anything technical. If you want to become rich, you can also own equity of a startup. After the IPO, many of the equity owners of the founders of Alibaba became really rich as well. You don't need to be a public figure like Jack Ma if you want to live a comfortable life. Don't be afraid of big competitors. If Jack Ma was afraid of eBay, who were trying to get their operations in China, they wouldn't have been able to scale their business and be as successful as they are now today. I hope you have enjoyed the lessons provided by this video. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you could like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on these valuable insights for your self-improvement journey.